All right, friends, here we are. It's June. We're in the last project unit of the season. It's been a long, difficult year for a lot of ways, but hopefully we've got like 19 more lessons to do, including today. So we're shifting our focus to animals. And our goal during this project is for you to visit the entire animal kingdom. And by the end of our lesson, or the end of our lessons, you've found your special connection spirit animal, the animal that is most like you. And then, of course, your last thing you will do this year is tell me about it for credit. That's how it all works, isn't it? All right, so yeah, let's start. Remember, animals. Let's talk about animals.
All right. Hey now.
Mr. Kovacs class. It's Mr. Kovacs class.
You might learn a ton.
It's Mr. Kovacs class.
He's interesting too.
It's Mr. Kovacs class.
And he's super cool.
It's Mr. Kovacs class.
I don't know if you remember, but in the beginning of the year, I asked you to save the Roombas because they were animals. And a lot of you argued with me, but I'm like, well, animals can do certain things. They eat, right? They're eaters, they're consumers. They cannot do photosynthesis, right? They don't have chloroplast. Animals move, at least part of their bodies, right? Like they usually move to capture food or to find food. And then there's some animals, even though they stay put, they still move part of their bodies to bring food to them. That makes them different from funguses, because funguses eat, but they have to be born where they're going to eat. They don't move to collect food, right? They kind of have to grow in their food. And then what else do animals do? They make waste, right? Animals, if you think about it, all animals that we know of here use oxygen for respiration. They do either aerobic or sometimes anaerobic, but aerobic respiration. So they make carbon dioxide waste. What else do we know about animals? Animals, some of them are furry. Some of them are scaly. Some of them are squishy. Some of them are crunchy, right? But we're going to study the wide world of animals. Let's start with our first animal. Let's go. All right, so our first animal, spirit animal, is in the group of animals we call arthropods. Arthropods, which is from old Greek roots. Arthro means joint, and pod, like podiatrist, feet or legs. So they're the jointed legs. Right? There's lots of arthropods. In fact, arthropods are a great type of animal to start with because they are the most successful animal on the planet, right? If just by sheer number and volume, there are more arthropods than all the other different types of animals combined. Yeah, this is not a people planet. This is an arthropod planet. If an alien landed here, they'd be like, wow, this planet is overrun with arthropods. So what makes an arthropod an arthropod? These are the ones, think about it, they're the ones that are crunchy on the outside, right? That's because they have this, they've got muscles, but they don't have bones. So they have to make this chitin protein to hold themselves up and for protection. And what's interesting about that, of course, is that it limits how big they can get, So, yeah, because to make an exoskeleton thick enough to hold you up, you reach a point where it's so thick you can't even move. So it's too heavy. So anyway, that's why you'll never see like giant arthropods. The only exception would be in the ocean where the buoyant force of water helps to hold some of these guys up. So there's some big arthropods down there. Right, so arthropods, think of things crunchy on the outside. Some of you guys eat them, right? Well, you probably don't eat every arthropod, but you maybe have eaten one of these guys. But anyway, yeah, if you eat them that They're crunchy on the outside, but inside are the muscle tissue, and that's the food you eat. So today's animals, arthropods. Now, when usually we think of arthropods, we think of crunchy on the outside and kind of hard and sometimes slimy, right? But today's animal is an arthropod that's also furry. We usually only think of mammals as being furry, but arthropods have developed fur over the years. There's lots of species that are fuzzy, fuzzy, fuzzy. Like this moth is a fuzzy arthropod. So today's animal, spirit animal of the day, is the European honeybee. We've studied her before. And she's an arthropod. She's crunchy on the outside, but look how furry she is. Beautiful, luxurious coat of this kind of golden fur. Now, these guys aren't invasive. They were brought over from Europe with the first colonists, because the colonists knew that if they wanted to have crops, they probably needed to bring bees. And hopefully by now you know that honeybees are like extremely important, maybe the world's most important animal for us because of our commercially grown large-scale crops. Most of them, especially the fruit crops anyway, need bees. Okay, bees are arthropods. Like a lot of arthropods, they go through different stages of life, from an egg to a larva. Then they make that cocoon and pupate, and then they emerge as an adult. You might remember that from our goldenrod gallfly, same life cycle, right? And the baby and the adult do not look anything alike. This is called complete metamorphosis. Complete metamorphosis. I think we studied bees before, and we know that honeybees live in these big colonies, and in the colony there's one reproductive female. We call her the queen, and she mates with males, which we call drones. Okay, she prefers to have the drones that she mates with not from her own hive, because otherwise they would be her own offspring. Okay, and so let's see, when she mates with the drones, the drone makes sperm cells, so we would call him male, or the sperm maker. She makes egg cells, and then she can actually store the sperm cells and use them one at a time to fertilize her thousands of eggs. Most of the time when she fertilizes an egg with a sperm cell, it grows up to be female, kind of. We call them a worker. What happens with the females is they are built like the queen, but they don't make eggs themselves. So really they have no gender, but they are like the queen. So we call them females, and they're all sisters. And we call them the workers. The workers have different jobs, but there's the ones that you most likely see. The queen usually stays put at the hive, and she's quite a bit bigger. Her job is just to lay eggs. And then the drone, every once in a while, she will take an egg and not fertilize it. A drone is the result of an unfertilized egg. So drones only have a mother, the queen. There's no father. They are genetically male, so they make sperm cells. You know what that means is that they make the smaller gamete. And then they're usually kicked out of the hive once they reach adulthood, so they can go find a queen of their own. So yeah, the European honeybee, right? We know, we've learned this before when we studied Project Plant, right? Pollen, they visit lots of different plants, and pollen often sticks to their fur. Now, they're not looking for pollen all the time, although they will collect some pollen to bring back for protein. But what they're really looking for is the nectar made from photosynthesis by those plants that's stored in the flower, right? They go to one flower. They're looking for nectar to bring back to the hive. Pollen sticks to the bee, travels to a different flower. Some of the pollen falls off, and that's how the flowers reproduce sexually, right? They need bees. In fact, they spend all their energy attracting bees so that bees can help them reproduce with each other. Now, if you remember Gregor Mendel, his flowers weren't visited by bees, so that was an advantage. Right? And let's see, when the bees go back to the hive, of course, they vomit all of the nectar they had collected into the combs, the waxy combs they make, and we call that stuff honey. And that's used to feed the larva in the hive and to grow more bees. Now, to get a new queen, I think we mentioned this before, but to get a new queen, the workers will take some eggs and feed them what they call the royal jelly, which is a very protein-rich food source. And all that does is it makes the queen grow at a different rate than the rest of the worker bees. And so she will develop the ability to make eggs instead of stopping her development when she's the size of a worker. Right? And so that's how they regulate how many males and females there are in the hive. Anyway, that's today. Our first spirit animal is the European honeybee. All right. In your part 2, you're going to read more about animals. And in part 3, you're going to visit some more other kinds of arthropods that are like in the same family as bees. Enjoy.